Hi everyone, and welcome to day 6 of our LMS Diaries. So far, I've been setting up our Build Empire LMS in Tocha from a marketer's POV, and today we're shifting gears a bit. I'm joined by our LMS Implementation Specialist Susanna, who usually helps our customers set up their LMS from scratch. Now, I'm not building with her today. Instead, I'll show you what I've done so far, and Susanna will explain how it usually works for our customers, and she'll share some quick tips and tricks to help us prepare for what's coming next. So, Susanna, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Hey, thank you. Yes, so I'm the implementation specialist and quite excited to get stuck in today. Been following along with what Helen's been up to, and it's all looking good.
Great, thank you. Yeah. So, last time in the last few episodes, I've gone through the learning strategy, I've set up roles and permissions, I've applied branding, and I've gone through the addition versus non-addition. Um, yeah, it's been an experience so far. I think as a marketer, I've done quite well. So, yeah, but I'd love to get your thoughts, Susanna.
Yeah, no, you have made a lot of good progress. It's been quite fun to see the perspective of someone just walking straight through it because, normally it would be us that are doing a lot of these things. How have you been finding it so far? Is there anything that's been maybe a bit tricky or surprising?
Yeah, I think it is a lot different, isn't it, from when you see an LMS versus when you go into like the actual settings and the back end and you think, oh, there's a lot of buttons here. Like there is so much customization, which is, obviously a big point of what we do and we want to give that customization. But coming in as a marketer, it's obviously it can be quite overwhelming when I'm looking at all the settings and figuring out how do I change this and how do I set up roles and permissions. I have found obviously the teams helping yourself really helpful in helping me throughout the journey and in terms of like roles and permissions, there are a lot of like guides online. So there's a lot of Tocha guides that you can look at. But yeah, if you have any tips on setting up roles and permissions for next time, yeah, that'd be really great if you've got any to share today.
Yeah, absolutely. So you will find some default site roles that are already on there. There'll be, default permissions that are for learners and managers. Just to explain that a bit more, sorry, a role is like something that we can give to a type of user, which is made up of a set of different permissions. These can be customized, so you don't have to go for the standard ones that are already there. You can kind of mix and match and create your own, but it's unless you've got like really specific requirements, it's good to just start off with the default that's there. And then once you do a bit of testing, you might see, I don't want this user to see this page, so I'll remove this permission. Or then you can get a bit more granular with it. The roles also exist at different levels. So you've got site level roles, and then you can also have like course roles. So someone might be a manager in a course, meaning that they can see some grading or they can get a bit of access to edit things. Like if you've got a forum on there, they might have access to like delete people's messages if they're inappropriate or moderate that, but they might not be a manager at site level. So they might not have permission to like edit a dashboard. They're just a manager within the course level.
Yeah, that's really great tips there. I wish I had you. I should have asked you that specific question a few episodes ago. But yeah, I think I've done well so far. So yeah, if there's anything I can come back to as well, I've always got yours and the team support. So that's really great as well. And then I think on branding, that was something I was really excited about to do. And obviously being in marketing, I do love branding. Again, it was probably just more that there's so much to edit, which is amazing. That it was just knowing where to put colours and where not to put them. And during one of the past episodes, I did say, "Oh, I've put too much of one colour somewhere and one another," and then it's not till you like sort of save it and look out at it again that you realise. So, are there any tips that you could help with that in future as well?
Sure. You've definitely taken the right approach. It's exactly what we would have done as well. Branding is one of the first things that we set up because, as you've said, there are a lot of different options. There are a lot of different like levels of buttons that you could turn into different colors. The best way to do that is to do what looks good, follow your own like company branding, but then to do it at the start of the projects, then whilst you continue building the LMS, you'll discover pages and you'll think, ooh, I'm not sure about that color. Or you'll sit with it for a week and then you'll realize like this isn't quite how we want it. And there's also things like accessibility. You want to make sure that text is really clear on top of the colours that you're putting down. And when you're first setting that up, you're not going to see every button and every page all at once. You need a bit of time to see all of that. So, yeah, really like that you've gone in and done that first.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely a good tip because you can just, come on to a page and be like, why does it look like that? And you've not realized how you've changed that setting or why you might have changed it to that. But then it's good to know, like, it's not completely set in stone, is it? And you can just go in and tweak stuff really easily. It's just kind of giving yourself time to ease into it and find those places. And you might have a change of heart about branding in general, but I think having it at the start and at the top of your mind is important so that anyone who sees it feels like it is part of your organization, which is what I've spoke a lot about in my branding episodes as well. So that's really handy. Thank you. And then when I went through the edition versus non-edition, I did reach out to them because on badges and stuff, I got really excited about adding all our edition features, and I didn't realize that some of them needed like a course set up first, to implement badges criteria and things like that. So, yeah, I think knowing that in mind, like you do get excited and want to start setting everything up when you're a new customer, but yeah, just having that clear step and of stages is where you and the team would be really helpful then to say, okay, well, you make the badges after you've set up your first course so you can identify it to that one to unlink them together. So, is there anything else on the addition wise that you would give any tips on or say, wait to do that until you've done this step, for example, like that?
I think you've nailed it so far. It is pretty much you've got to get the foundations laid before you can start painting the house. You've got to
Yeah.
go through the steps of it to make sure that what you're building actually works for what you want it for. It's got to be scalable and all those extra little bits. Yeah, it goes such a long way in building your user engagement and just really making your platform shine. But right now, where you're at, it's got to just be the building and getting that like core structure in place first.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, it's been really good to have your eyes on it and just give me some advice on there.
Okay, let's look at your organization frameworks. I believe you've already got 3 of them in here. Yep, perfect. So let's look at this marketing one here. So within marketing, yeah, you've got 2 different teams with sub-teams within this. I really like that you've prioritized this part quite early on. It's so important because when it comes to user provisioning and knowing what a user needs in their profile, what fields they need to have, it's then easier to match up whether or not your users have got the right information for them to be placed in the right groups, which is then important for things like course enrollments, different levels of permissions, making sure that they're seeing the right things, they're seeing the right dashboard, they're seeing the right reports. And that can only really be done by having a clear organization framework, which can then be used to automate some audiences. In fact, I think you've already got audiences as well, so let's take a little look at that. Yes, so we've got 2 audiences here. Your types are dynamic and set. I really like this dynamic one here because that means that there's automated rules set up. It could be something like users who were onboarded within a certain time frame, they're part of a certain point of an org structure, based on custom profile fields. You can get quite creative with it, but it's a really nice way to automate that. When you onboard a new person, as long as they've got the right information, then everything will just be created for you. Essentially, you won't have to go in and say, ooh, which dashboards they need, let's add them here, which courses do they need, add them there. It just all does it for you. So that's really great to see that you're already planning ahead for that. Okay, looking at your branding, it's clear that you've already done a good start on this. Really like this dark blue navigation with the white text on top. It's really nice to see that the things that you're looking at is highlighted pink. It's very clear. If I open up the settings for this, we can take a look at what the options were. So you are using the Build Empire Edition theme, and you'll see that you've got a lot of colour options. So we've got the primary brand colour, which is all of this here, Header text icon color, this really helps to stand out which parts are navigation, which parts are your tools, and which parts are just like core site stuff. You could have changed the background of this page as well if you wanted to. We've got different button colours, so we'll see like this button down here called Save is blue because you've made it blue. And we've also got side navigation here, which is where we've seen that blue with the pink highlight on it. I would recommend considering changing this page background colour. So maybe I'll do that as a demo and then just turn it back off for you if I just make this a little bit grey and click save. We can then refresh it. Let's take a look. So there we go. Obviously this was the wrong shade of grey, but it does show you that now these blocks do stand out a little bit more. So if it fits in with your brand, that is a good option. I'm going to undo that now. It's also really important to think about accessibility. So what are the ratios between, say, this colour on top of this colour? A lot of people will be working towards certain standards, so it's good to keep that in mind and make sure that you are following those. Let's go back to white there and press save. So that will update for us in a moment. And I can also see here on brand you have popped on some images. They are white, so they're not the best to see right now, but it's good to see that you have popped in those logos. One suggestion I would make is you've put a white favicon up here. It's quite hard to see it against the background. I assume it's very similar to this Build Empire logo here, just up here. I would recommend finding a different colour to put on there just so that it stands out a little bit more. But otherwise, branding is just something that you'll refine as you're building the site. As we've seen, there's a lot of different options in there. So things like what colour a certain button is. When you're first filling in those colours on that page, you might not quite realise where this is going to sit in different places on the platform. So it's great to get a head start, to start putting that in immediately, and then as you're building it, you'll start to spot things and think, oh, this one's grey down here, can I get that changed? And then you can refine it as you continue with your build. On a very similar note, I can see that you have changed these icons here. So that's really great to see. It's really easy to just scan down and know what these different things are. You know, you can see your library, save button, home. It's a home button. You know, it's just so quick and clear to see what those things are. And if we collapse that menu in as well, obviously when I hover over, I am going to see those titles again and I could open it up. But if my preference is to have a bigger screen like this, I'm not losing any insight to what these other buttons are. It's a lot easier to just think, ooh, that's develop and click on develop. Yeah, and I'm aware dashboards is something that you're still working on and going to be looking at next, but I did want to say I really like this dashboard banner here. It really pulls the homepage together, shows important updates right away and gives a quick snapshot of what's going on. Whether like it's a marketing update or sales campaign, a dev announcement, it's all in one place and makes the LMS feel proper rounded and just easy to use overall.
So Susanna is going to be running through sort of step by step what we do for customers and how they would usually experience working with Build Empire. So if you want to start, Susanna, on giving us sort of like a run through of how it usually works when someone signs up.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we normally sign a new customer, we'll send out a discovery document and capture a bunch of information on, you know, your reason for the LMS, what you want in there, and how we can best support you to get you to an operational position before going live. Then we wouldn't just give it to you and leave it with you. We would be walking through all these steps with you. So everything that Helen's been doing, like you know, user provisioning, looking at organization, setting up the site and the branding, that's all something that we would take lead on with your guidance and you being part of it, of course. But the idea is more we set it up, we build it, and we make sure that you're in a position that you can continue the growth, you can continue managing it once it's gone live.
Yeah, that's great. It's a lot more supportive environment, isn't it? This diaries is more just an example to show you how a marketer having no experience can get stuck in, but having the team is just really important. So you know exactly what you're setting up. You don't need to go and Google search everything. You've got the team like right there at the tip of your fingertips. So in terms of like dashboards and things like that, how does that normally work with the setup?
Yeah, so we would join a call with you and walk through how these things work. As part of sales, before you even get to us, you will have experienced what different dashboards can look like. There are a lot of variations and you can get quite creative with it. So it's quite nice to have a sort of starting point of the things that you like and what works with your brand. Specifically with dashboards, we just need to understand what's the most important thing for your users. Is this person logging in as a manager? They need to see reports, they need to see where their teams are, or they need to access their own courses. Or is this a learner who they just want to log in, they want to see a button that says learn, they click it, and then they get their one course. It's how granular and how they want to use the system. So that would be our
Yes.
typical starting point, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So it's tailored to each user as well. So it's really great that you can support with the personalization of that. So that sounds great. And yeah, branding. I've spoke so much about branding during this series. So yeah, the branding part of it is really important. I think being in marketing as well, I would say that, but everyone can get a different vibe from the LMS. You know, it could look completely different from a learner compared to a manager. But yeah, that's really great. And then when it comes to like the actual setup, so I know you do like test account setups. Is there a reason that you do it this way for the implementation?
Yeah, absolutely. So you would be a site administrator if you're the person who's having ownership over the LMS. Your point of view is going to look very different to the end user. You're going to log in and you're going to see settings and options to move things around. You're going to see everything. If you think about your learner, if that's like an employee at, like a law firm, or that's a manager or like a school worker, they don't want to be seeing that. They shouldn't have permission to see that, and they're going to see something completely different. So we set up test accounts that are set up as those people so that we can kind of see what their experience is going to be, so that we can walk through the user journey, check everything's right, and just sort of sense check, is this how we want it to be?
Yeah, that really makes it a lot safer then, doesn't it? Before you go and release it to the wild, to the learners and the other users to make sure that everything is in the right place, that got all the content that they need and the courses that they need. So yeah, that's really great. Is there any other parts of implementation that you would think are interesting to share with any viewers today?
Um, I'd say it's important to focus on scalability.
Mhm.
Quite often we'll look at an implementation and it's, you've got a need to have this. There's a reason you're getting it. You want it as soon as possible. And you've just
Yeah.
paid for something. It's exciting. Everyone wants it now. The only danger in that is not building for scalability. Once you like whittle down to what are the base requirements, it can be quite easy to just get something out there and not think about how you want to expand and grow, which is why I quite like your earlier videos on here, looking at setting up organizations and making sure that the core structure is in place, even though sometimes that's like a little bit more, like I dare say, boring stuff in the background. Like it's so important to make sure that your system isn't just set up for a go live date, it's actually set up for your continued use, because you are going to be using it continually and you do need to be in a position where this can just grow with your business.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want to have to undo all the work that you've done to have to change any settings and
A nightmare.
audiences and permissions, because that would just be the worst thing when we're all like really struggling for time as it is. If you're an L&D manager or an admin, that's something you wouldn't want to do. So I think having that clear structure and setup is really vital at the beginning. And then there's a lot you do with the team as well, like ongoing support, isn't there? A lot of our customers do say like it doesn't end implementation. There's always something like new we're working on and new projects. Is there anything from there that you could share?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have ongoing support. Of course, it wouldn't be that we just gave it to you and then it's your problem. If you ever came across
Yeah.
something or you see a new feature and you want to expand out, we could reopen projects, come back to us, and we would look at building features with you or troubleshooting stuff that you've got at the moment. We also have an amazing team that's constantly working on our Build Empire edition. So that team is always looking at what is the current system and how can it be improved. And there are regular upgrades that are rolled out. And we have an amazing customer excellence support person who does work with our customers to see what's not being utilized or what structures do you have in place that we could suggest improvements on.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Yeah, the addition I mentioned in the episode just before this one, I just dipped my toe into it basically because there's that much to talk about, and there's even more stuff like that's always coming and being added to the edition. But yeah, there was lots of exciting features there that I've that added to my LMS, but I'm sure you'll give me some advice on that after this. But yeah, just moving on to sort of like tips and tricks. So as you know, if you've been following this series, I'm at the stage now where I've gone through all the different steps. The branding's looking quite good, if I do say so myself. And now I've gone through the addition and non-addition, and I've got a few more stages left still to do. So in the next episodes, I'm going to be going through creating dashboards for learners and for managers. Is there any advice that you could give me for when I'm setting that up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would always open a second browser, whether that's a different browser provider or just an incognito window. Log in on that browser as your learner, and then as you're making updates from your own admin point of view, you can see how that will look for the learner, because that will be a little bit different. And then, of course, repeat that step when you're doing it for the manager dashboard as well. The other thing to watch is dashboards look different depending on different screen sizes. So if you've got like your dashboard planner, for example, in the top, or you've got courses and everything looks nicely lined up on your screen, you'll want to zoom right in and right out just to make sure that at every screen size it still looks good. And yeah, just have fun and be creative with it. As long as whatever's at the top is what that user needs, it's definitely worth then exploring all the different features and seeing what else you could put on there.
Yeah, because there's always like room to change it, isn't there? And I'm
Mm.
sure people get feedback, don't they, from like, oh, and this is in a funny place. Can we move this? You know, if it was a learner, like you said before, they might just want to go straight in and click to go to the courses, and if there's too much information, they might want more of a simpler design. So you might also get some feedback on that to develop it more. But yeah, I like to have fun with it because I think, there's it can get a bit too admin-y, can't it? So if you can get a bit creative with the placement and your branding and where things look and try and tailor it to each different audience, then that's where you'll be able to find some excitement in it. So that's really good advice. Thank you. And then some other things that I am looking forward to when I'm going to be doing are um, courses. So I'll be setting up my first course. So I'm not going to lie, I'm a bit nervous setting up my first course. I need, I'll definitely need some tips and tricks for that one. But if there's anything like, don't just build courses without a clear structure. Is there anything else that sort of on courses that you could give me some advice on?
Yeah, I think it's important to think about your course structure. You've got different options if you want learners to like follow straight down a pathway, or you want
Yeah.
them to open a screen and see like a bunch of blocks and images, and then they click into those images to find different activities. So think about how you want them to progress through the course. Also, think about the range of activities you've got in there. I think we've all done an online course at some point where it's just like information, couple questions, information, couple questions, information, couple questions, and you don't really learn from it, do you? You need to have
Yeah.
some kind of variety, something engaging in there. And yeah, I'd also say keep it very outcome focused. Learners want to see as soon as they open the course, what am I doing? What am I going to be tested on? And you want to know, like, is this grade going to be made up of lots of different activities? Is it going to be one giant quiz at the end? If you can have that defined as you go in, it's a lot easier to build for success.
Yeah, yeah, that's very good advice because then you know exactly what you're doing before you just get in there and start changing all the settings. Or if you are, you do want to just go, oh, well, the information's in there, so they should do it. But like you said, it needs to be engaging for them to actually want to finish it. So I think diversifying like the content types, That sounds really good because I know video is being a lot more popular recently. So I do want to include some videos in my first course. So yeah, that's some really good advice. Thank you. So I've been through branding on the previous episodes. I've done sort of basic and next level, but is there any other tips and tricks that are kind of a bit more hidden that you could share with me, so I can just take it up another level?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it looks great so far. And normally I would be saying to you, how does it match your company's website and other structures you've got on? But I appreciate this is a demo, so we can't quite look at that. One thing I did spot is on the side navigation, you've got a logo at the top, which is
Yeah.
quite far off to the left. Just to neaten things up a little bit, we can get that central, and I can send you some
Okay.
custom CSS, which will just make it a bit more uniform. So I'll send that
Yeah.
to you after this.
Yeah, that'd be really great. Thank you. Yeah, because it's not properly aligned, is it, with all the text? So that'd be great. I'll add that and then put it in that in the next episode. Thank you. Are there any other tips on just generally? It might not have to be for my LMS that I've set up, but that you would just give to anyone watching as well.
Yeah, I would say always get feedback. It's
Yeah.
always worth doing a bit of research, seeing what you can get. And actually, Totra has its own community academy that you can go
Mhm.
and like register for free. It's got all of these different courses, which explains how to use all these admin backend settings. But it's also using a Totra environment. So I find it's quite a nice way to do a course and see what it's like being a user on this kind of system. And it's quite a nice way to get ideas for yourself.
Yeah, that's really handy actually, because if you experience it firsthand, you can see whether, oh, this could be more engaging, or I really like that, the way this course is structured. So I need to have another go at that as well before I do my first course setup. So that sounds really good. And of course, like we've said previously as well, like customers will get support with all these things. It's just knowing all the like hacks for this series that are really handy to use. And then moving on, so we've got sort of different things on any, are there any other technical tweaks that we could add? Is there anything else you could share on that or?
Honestly, always, there's always going to be further iteration and more
Mhm.
work that can be done because Dota is just so varied and there's just so much that you can do. At the moment, I think that you're making good progress and just carry on with how you're doing and what you've already got planned for the next steps. Um, you would never be by yourself and you would always be able to access support. So I'd say do a little more and let me take another look, please.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds really good. Thank you. Yeah, there's still loads more to do. I've not even created the dashboards for the learners, managers. I'm gonna also be doing an episode on gamification and engagement as well. So I'm looking forward to doing that one. Okay, so that's it for today. We've done a quick tour of what I've done already in the LMS diaries. We've gone through how Susanna would guide our customers, and she's also shared some really great handy tips and tricks with us. So, next time we'll be diving into creating dashboards for our learners. So, I'll make sure to use Susanna's tips for them as well. And yeah, so thanks for joining. Thanks, Susanna, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, Helen, for including me. It's been really great to see your progress on this, and I'm looking forward to watching where you take it next and coming back on.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah, we'll catch up with you in a few episodes, but for now, that's everything. So, yeah, thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.